How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
My fellow Americans, I feel like I should say that since I'm in Washington, D.C. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the nation. The phone number, 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the program. Housekeeping, I feel like I should just remind the people in Tulsa, Oklahoma on KRMG, and Dayton, Ohio on WHIO, and Jacksonville, Florida on WOKV, that I'm now live noon to 3 Eastern Time, 11 to 2 Central Time. And if you're listening to me in the evening, well, you can listen to me in the middle of the day now. Okay, so I want to start now with where I was going to start at the beginning of the program today, but with the Supreme Court's decision that I told you was going to happen exactly as it came out, I decided I would wait. We were promised adults. In fact, that was the unofficial motto of the Biden campaign in 2020. You elect Joseph Robinette Biden, President of the United States, and the adults will be back in charge. That's what we were told. The adults would be back in charge. What have we gotten with the adults? Well, I got to say, it was delightfully hilarious to me that Stephen Dettelbach, he is the acting director of the ATF, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and I guess now they call it explosives as well. It is that entity that sucks the joy out of life, the ATF. Stephen Dettelbach is the acting director of the ATF. And he couldn't tell the difference between a clip and a magazine on Face the Nation. The head of the ATF doesn't know the difference. Now, full disclosure, until I really started taking firearms seriously, I would oftentimes say clip for magazine. I did. My wife is the one who corrected me. My wife is way more into the Second Amendment than I am. If you see my wife and me in public, the odds are she's carrying and I'm not. This is the relationship I have. She still can't out deadlift me, just for the record, but she's getting close. This is getting nerve-wracking for me. But, you know, a long time ago in the 50s and 60s, a lot of rifles had clips that you would slide in to fire rifles, and the magazine replaced them over time to hold the rounds. And you insert the magazine with all of the bullets in your handgun in particular, and now a lot of rifles have magazines as well, and a magazine and a clip are different. If you've ever seen a picture of rounds of ammunition and they're like attached to a metal slab on the back, a metal piece, but they're otherwise exposed and you slide that into, some guns have it, that's the clip. If you see the black container into which the rounds are stacked and that's stuck into a gun, that's a magazine. The director of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms did not know that when talking to Nora O'Donnell on Face the Nation. Dettelbach didn't know it. Not only did he not know it, this is the most embarrassing thing, he's with his deputy at the ATF. He's with his deputy. He's the acting chief, Chris Board is his name, of the Firearms Ammunition Technology Division. and he can't break down a Glock. Now, okay, I understand. I understand that many of you listening, you're not firearms people. You may support the right to the Second Amendment, but you don't own a Glock. I own, well, let's see. I got that one. 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 I own 7 Glocks. I own 7 Glocks. Now, I've got a CZ. I've got an HK. I own 7 Glocks. I own 2 Glock 19s. My friends at True Precision got me a Glock 43X. Then there's a regular Glock 43. I've got, see, I'm counting, my wife has a 19 and she's got a 43. And then we've got another one as well. We've got 3 of them are 45 caliber. The rest are 9mm. Or, yeah, 45. The rest are 9s. We've got 7 Glocks in our house. 7. We've got SIGs. We've got CZs. We've got HKs. We own a lot of guns. People say, why do you need so many guns? Well, why do you not need that many guns? You should have, I mean, if they're on sale, you should buy them before the government tries to confiscate them. That's all I'm saying. And that's just the handguns, by the way. We got more handguns than that. I mean, we got SIGs and anyway, I digress. We own a lot of handguns in our house. The Glocks. If I were to close my eyes, this is what I want you to do. I'm not a gun expert. I own a lot of guns, but I'm not an expert. My kids, by the way, are great shots. I own a lot of guns. I own a lot of Glocks. I'm just going to say this. I am not an expert. You need to know, like you listening who does not own a gun, I'm not an expert on guns. But I promise you, I guarantee you, I could close my eyes and just with feel, I could disassemble my Glock. And I'm not an expert. I could disassemble my Glock. Close my eyes and I can disassemble. It's not hard to do. And yet the acting chief of the ATF's Firearms Ammunitions Technology Division on live television on Face the Nation could not do it. He could not do it. CBS consented to do a scaremongering interview about the Second Amendment, and the head of the ATF got wrong the difference between clips and magazines, couldn't tell the difference between them, used the term interchangeably, and Chris Bort, the acting chief of the Firearms Ammunition Technology Division, couldn't actually disassemble his Glock, something that I, a non-expert who doesn't regularly go shoot, I could do literally with my eyes closed. I guarantee you I could do it with my eyes closed. And he couldn't do it. Now, that's just one encapsulating episode for what it's like to have these adults back in charge. Here's another encapsulating episode. Secretary Mayorkas was on, I think he too was on Face the Nation this weekend, and he was asked about Laken Riley and had any mistakes been made. He read from a printed statement. He read from a printed statement. He did not want to say her name. You know, the left, when something bad happens, what do they yell? Say her name. When a progressive is injured, say her name. When that poor lady was shot and killed by police, I think in Tennessee, say her name. George Floyd, say his name. Joe Biden has never said the name Laken Riley. Oh, he's talked plenty about George Floyd. He's talked about the young man in Missouri who was shot through the door by an elderly white guy. He said that kid's name. He said George Floyd's name. He won't say Laken Riley's name. The Secretary of Homeland Security won't say her name. He read from a pre-printed statement. He did not freeform it. He didn't show compassion. He read from a pre-printed statement about a murdered girl in Georgia killed by an illegal alien who crossed the border under Joe Biden's watch, and they will not say her name. And then there's Raul Ortiz. Raul Ortiz, the chief of the United States Border Patrol, from August of 2021 to May of 2023. It's important I give you those dates. August of 2021 to May of 2023. The entirety of the time that he served as chief of the United States Border Patrol was in the administration of Joseph Robinette Biden and Kamala Harris. The Biden-Harris administration, as Joe Biden calls it. Raul Ortiz, on 60 Minutes, says he's never had a conversation with Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. There were 15,000 Haitians under the Del Rio Bridge. There was the narrative about the Border Patrol agents whipping people at the border. There's the end of Title 42. There's the record-setting illegal immigrant crossings. The chief oversees the 20,000 agents on the front lines trying to stop it. And Joe Biden nor Kamala Harris have ever talked to him. He was their guy at a time of crisis, and he never talked to him. They never called him. He had no access to them. We were promised that the adults would be back in charge. And the adults can say Ahmaud Arbery's name. They can say George Floyd's name. They can say any name in the books that amplifies and advances their narratives of systemic racism in the country and how the country must overturn it on their watch after Donald Trump will overturn it. We shall overcome and we shall cross that bridge at Selma. But they won't say Laken Riley's name, because Laken Riley was murdered by an illegal alien who crossed the border on their watch. They never talked to the head of the Border Patrol. The Secretary of Homeland Security can't freeform a compassionate, empathetic statement. He's got to read a prepared statement live on national television, lest he get off script. The head of the ATF can't tell you the difference between a clip and a magazine. The head of the technology division there can't disassemble a Glock that I could with my eyes closed, and I'm not an expert. These are the adults we were promised. This is a clown show. A clown show led by Grandpa Dementia, who acts as a human Roomba when he tries to get off a stage. Is it any wonder, in the New York Times Siena College polling, the best pollster from 2020 and 2022, Siena College has dialed it in 2 election cycles in a row. And they have Donald Trump beating Joe Biden. And the number 1 issue for voters is Biden's age, and the number 2 issue is his competence. Joe Biden's polling shifted dramatically after Afghanistan. And it shifted because people saw a man they thought was empathetic to the working class. It was feigned empathy. It was pretend empathy. It was cruelty and incompetence. We left Americans behind, and he refused to acknowledge that it was botched. He refused to acknowledge it could have been done differently. He thinks it was perfect. He thinks it was flawless. When Donald Trump gets up there, he says, it's perfect, it's flawless. The media heckles him. The media controls him. The media needles him. The media points out the flaws. Not with Joe Biden. They've circled the wagons around him. They've protected him. The wheels have fallen off. The American public sees the feigned empathy. The American public sees the cruelty. The American public sees the incompetence. And as the media said with Trump, you almost wonder if it's the case with Joe Biden for real. That the cruelty is the point. Say Laken Riley's name, Joe Biden. That you can't tells us everything we need to know about the president who left Americans behind enemy lines in Afghanistan and to this day defends the decision. Say her name. We'll be back. This time of the program brought to you by First Liberty Building and Loan in Noonan, Georgia, wherever you are around the country. If you're in charge of the finances of a business, trying to grow that business, see if they might be able to help you. They make their own lending decisions. FirstLibertyGA.com. All right, y'all, I gotta mention this wild story from the Wall Street Journal. Russians keep turning up dead all over the world. On a Tuesday afternoon last month, Maxim Kuzminov drove up to his new condo overlooking a palm-lined Spanish beach, unaware that an assassin was waiting for him by the parking garage. Local police station less than 500 feet away needed only minutes to respond, but witnesses said it was too late for the former Russian helicopter pilot. The killer had vanished, driving out over the 28-year-old victim's bullet-ridden body. A medic who sliced through his shirt with bandage shears noted the accuracy of the 5 small-caliber shots, one directly piercing his heart. 6 months earlier, Kuzminov, a native of a town near Russia's North Korean border, had defected to Ukraine. His Mi-8 attack helicopter taking small arms fire as he flew barely 20 feet above the ground. After turning over his gunship, he collected a $500,000 reward and encouraged his countrymen to follow his example. Now, Kuzminov, gunned down in Villa Joyosa, a coastal resort that translates as Joyful Town, has become the latest name on a lengthening list of unsolved deaths of Russians who soured on Putin's invasion of Ukraine. Spain hasn't identified a suspect, although investigators believe the murder was ordered by the Kremlin. Moscow hasn't denied it. This is happening all over the world now. Critics of Vladimir Putin are dying. Businessmen have been found hanged in London and drowned in Puerto Rico. A ruling party boss fell from the roof of an Indian hotel. A 46-year-old deputy science minister died of an unexplained illness on the way back from Cuba. The Russians are killing anyone who stands up to dissent from Vladimir Putin. It's happening more and more around the world as he tenuously grabs hold of power and is afraid to let it go. Vladimir Putin's days are probably numbered. But we still need to do what we can to support Ukraine if possible. Now, we'll move on. But first, I got to tell you about Vision Computers. So my son, who's sitting here with me, he's got a gaming PC from Vision Computers. And it is upgradable. It's going to last him. They set it up with us. They told him what we wanted. It was a great process to go through with Vision Computers. You can go through the same process. Build a computer, laptop, desktop, gaming PC, server, workstation, whatever you need. You can do this for your office as well. Now, get this. If you didn't buy your computer from Vision, for just $179 a year, your business can outsource your tech support to Vision Computer so that your company has Vision always on call. They've got over 3,500 5-star reviews on Google for their service. It's unbelievable. You don't have to have bought your computer from them, but it's even better if you did. You save even more money from Vision Computers. As an individual or as a business, you can do this with Vision Computers. They save you money. They keep you going. Listen, your employees should be experts in their field, not on how to keep their computer going. That's what Vision's for. In 15 seconds or less, they can get their answers from Vision over the phone and keep going. You can do this, visioncomputers.com or 404-COMPUTE. Call them and tell them I sent you. 404-COMPUTE. Anyone nationwide, 404-COMPUTE. Call Vision Computers. Greetings, welcome. It is Eric Erickson here live from the Kirby Center of Hillsdale College in Washington, D.C. on tour with my kids' 9th and 10th grade classes. I'll be off tomorrow and Wednesday on tour with them of Washington. We're out hanging out here waiting for them. We flew up. We weren't peons. We weren't coming up on a bus. Actually had meetings up here, so it gave me a good excuse to get up here early. The phone number, 877-973-7425, should you wish to be on the program. Delighted to have you. Let me go to Lane here on the phones. Lane, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you for taking my call. Appreciate that very much.
Sure.
My comment is because of Lincoln Riley, I'm calling. I live in Athens. I'm a graduate of that nursing program, although many years ago. My point would be, if she didn't know that man was going to kill her, attack her, and say he fell, she would have turned around and helped him because she's a nurse. And I'm a surgical nurse. And when we put covers on someone or you walk into a room, you don't know what color that person is. We all believe the same. And what was taken was a future that, of course, can't be replaced, but the value of that time is immeasurable. That's all.
Look, Lane, I appreciate it very much. It's so true that we're dealing now with a tragic situation of the potential of someone's life. You know, when I was a lawyer, so I had to do, being where I was and the type of law that I practice. I did a lot of real estate closings, did corporate law, elections, estate planning, did a lot of corporate stuff, but I couldn't escape personal injury law and wrongful deaths. What's so sad about those cases is you're dealing with the value of someone's potential. And you got to figure out it's an assessment. If in our system, we don't do eye for an eye here. We do financial damages, compensation. Someone's life is wrongfully taken. You have to assess what the potential of that life. What was that life worth? She was going to be a nurse. She was on her track to be a nurse. What is the value of that life to her family? And it sucks. It really sucks to have to put a monetary figure on someone's life. It's unfair. But it is the way our system is arranged, and it's a far better system than the alternatives. In the same way, for example, democracy is messy and ugly, but it's a far better system than any other system. A republic can be a republic without the woven threads of democracy tying it all together. A democracy, the people voting, even in a representative democracy like ours, not a direct democracy, it's messy, it's discombobulating, but it's far better than other systems. It's far better than a dictatorship. It's far better than a monarchy. It's far better than an oligarchy. It's far better than a technocracy, which is frankly where we're headed. In the same way, for all the flaws of democracy, they're the flaws of a system that requires the monetary value of life to be assessed when a life is taken. Now, in this case, it's a murder. Cut short unexpectedly, it's a murder. Her potential left there in Athens, and it's sad. And what is worse, frankly, is because of the nature of her death, the President of the United States will not say her name. That's what's sad here, y'all. Is like I said when it happened, I hate to talk about the political implications of it. I hate to make it more than a mother and father have lost their daughter, but given the circumstances of an illegal alien who crossed the border during the Biden administration, who repeatedly should have been placed in jail, and progressive prosecutors refused to place him in jail, and they enabled him. He's the one who took her life. He's the one who murdered her, but he couldn't have gotten that close. He couldn't have done it but for the failures of progressive policies by progressive politicians, and that is why Joe Biden cannot mention Laken Riley's name. It's not because of a speech impediment. It's not because of a stutter. It's not because of dementia. It's not because of age. But to mention the two words, Laken Riley, would be an admission against interest that he failed in his duties to keep Americans safe. And so they'll pretend it all away. All the people whose names he'll mention. All the people who will get attention. It's sad. It's just unfortunate that we're in this position. Ralph Yarl. That's the teenager shot by Andrew Lester April 13th of last year in Kansas City, Missouri. The 85-year-old homeowner, 84, shot Ralph Yarl through the door. Ralph Yarl is a teenager who, thank God, survived. He was 16. He was 16 years old at the time. He was one street over. He was supposed to be picking up his sister, I think it was. He rang the wrong doorbell of the wrong home, and an 84-year-old man shot him through the front door. Ralph Yarl was shot in the head, and he was shot in the arm. This is from April 18th, 2023. President Joe Biden spoke at length with a Kansas City teenager who was shot after he rang the wrong doorbell while trying to pick up his younger siblings. Biden called 16-year-old Ralph Yarl and his mother on Monday evening to discuss Yarl's recovery and studies. They spoke at length regarding Ralph's recovery, and Ralph reminded the president that his mom, Cleo Nagby, who also joined the call, was not only a nurse but also a physical therapist. They discussed how fortunate Ralph was for that. After ringing the homeowner's doorbell, Yarl was shot in the head and in the upper right arm after hitting the ground. Yarl wants to attend Texas A&M and study in chemical engineering. Biden lightheartedly attempted to convince him that the University of Delaware was a much better option as they discussed his success in the classroom. Biden and Yarl also discussed their family's history and love of music. The president stressed his commitment to tackling gun violence in the United States. He can't call Lincoln Riley's parents. What's he going to do? Talk about how now is the time to get serious about illegal immigration? Now is the time to secure the border? God bless Ralph Yarl. He showed up at the wrong home. And a man only slightly older than the President of the United States fired shots through his front door. You know, the same weekend Ralph Yarl was shot, a young white girl in New York and some friends were in a car. They pulled into the wrong driveway. They realized it was the wrong driveway. They turned around and left. And an 80-something-year-old man walked out onto his porch with a gun and opened fire, killing this young lady. Joe Biden never said her name either. She died. Ralph Yarl thankfully lived. But she was white. The shooter was white. Biden ignored it. The same weekend, Ralph Yarl was shot in Missouri. There was a Sweet 16 party in Alabama. Dozens of people were shot at the party. All the wounded were black. The shooters were black. Joe Biden never said their names either. He couldn't. The narrative is more important than the truth. And if the victim is attuned to the narrative, well, he gets mentioned. This is not in any way, shape, or form to say he shouldn't have spent time with Ralph Yarl. I'm glad he did. It was a horrible, horrible tragedy. Thank God he'll be okay. But I just think it's notable that Joe Biden would call attention to that and use Ralph Yarl's shooting as not just a way to talk about racial reconciliation in this country and the progress that needs to be made, but also to talk about gun control in this country. He can't do that with the death of Lincoln Riley. He can't do that with her. So he won't mention her name. And that's just tragic, frankly. Just another tragic situation. You know, it's like, for example, there's this story in the New York Post today. Cops stumbled on two severed heads in a Long Island park hours after other body parts were found nearby. And they're now probing whether the MS-13 gang is responsible. One of the heads, as well as a right arm and leg, are believed to belong to the same female victim, while the other head and two arms appear to be from the same man. The man's left arm, at least, still had its tattoos on it, but no fingertips, which could mean the victim has a record and the perpetrators don't want him identified through prints because that could lead investigations to his killer. They were brutal, vicious murders. MS-13 has been known to hack up bodies with machetes. The bodies were also found near where the gang has committed other crimes. The medical examiner will determine it. You're not going to have Biden talking about this one either, because the MS-13 thrives on illegal immigrants crossing the border. It grows that way. It festers that way. Remember when Donald Trump brought a family to the State of the Union whose kid had been gunned down by MS-13 gang members, and the media had a conniption? How dare he use that tragedy against the Democrats? How dare he bring that family here? The media attacked the family for participating in the State of the Union. And here it is, happening yet again. The Democrats would prefer you not call attention to it. You notice the stories in the right of center New York Post, not the left of center New York Times. Because of course not. Narrative always trumps. Narrative always trumps. And it's sad that the narrative always trumps the facts and the truth. The patterns demanded by the left. It's a cruel mistress the left's demands for narrative. It's cruel in that the truth must be ignored unless it can advance the left-wing causes in the United States of America. It's why so many people no longer believe the media or the Democrats, and why so many predatory personalities who are also opposed to the truth are so easily able to lie and manipulate people emotionally, twisting the truth. Because the media itself, the watchdogs of truth, they've failed. They've succumbed to the ring of power, and they want to do nothing more than protect Joe Biden. They won't even tell you all the truths about the economy right now. There are all sorts of warning signs about the economy. Regional banks have so much involved in corporate real estate and corporate bond deals. 10 regional banks have had their credit downgraded. More are starting to worry. There's that bank up in New York now, the Community Bank in New York, having all sorts of problems. Swiss America wants to help you protect your hard-earned assets. Have you all seen what precious metals have been doing lately? The prices have been soaring right now as people realize they need to put their assets somewhere that they can be protected. Swiss America wants to help you. You should reach out to them, start a relationship with them. You can call them at 800-289-2646. 800-289-2646. Tell them Eric Erickson sent you. You can also go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric today, SwissAmerica.com/Eric. Find out how to get a silver dollar from Swiss America as well. They have great value. They know how to take care of your assets. They know how to teach you as a self-reliant investor to take care of your assets. 800-289-2646. That's their number, 800-289-2646. Tell them Eric Erickson sent you. You can also make it easy. Go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric, SwissAmerica.com/ERICK. Message and data rates may apply. We'll be right back. Greetings, conversationalists. It is Eric Erickson here across the fruited plain. The phone number 877-973-7425. There is breaking news happening now, and it is a really big deal. The IDF, Israeli Defense Force, they have released audio of an UNRWA teacher, that is the United Nations Relief Program in Palestinian territory, Youssef Zidan Suleiman al-Hawajara, bragging about going into Israel on October 7th and having a female hostage. He worked for UNRWA. Not only that, there are 4 more United Nations relief workers that Israel has now identified as participating in the October 7th massacre. Mahmoud Hussein Ahmad Al-Kak took part in the October 7th massacre. He's a teacher for an UNRWA elementary school in Khan Yusin and is an operative in the Islamic Jihad. Youssef Zidan Salamam al-Kujari took part in the October 7th massacre. He was an UNRWA elementary school teacher in Deir al-Bala. He's an operative at Hamas's Central Campaigns Brigade. Ghassan Nabil Mohammed Sha'ada el-Jabri took part in the October 7th massacre, a clerk in a health center. He's an operative in Hamas's Al-Fuqan battalion. Bakr Mahmoud Abdallah Darwish took part in the October 7th massacre. He's a counselor at an UNRWA school and an operative in Hamas's military wing. That's 5 United Nations employees who operated as Hamas terrorists on October 7th. 5 so far. The United Nations denied any involvement and said their investigation turned up no ties to Hamas. They lied. They've always lied. They allowed their own Hamas operatives in the Palestinian territory to conduct that investigation. And surprise, surprise, they found no ties whatsoever. And here come the names, the faces, the ties, the documentary evidence, the recorded phone calls. Israel has the receipts. The United Nations will not do anything with it, and you can expect much of the media to cover it up. You ask yourself, you watch the news tonight outside of Fox. You see how many news networks cover this story. You watch tomorrow in the paper. You see how many cover. Don't hold your breath. Don't hold your breath. Probably not going to get covered. And if it does, they'll touch on it very quickly and move on, never to come back to it. It's what they do. The narrative trumps the truth.